Hey, what's up? This is Delio coming to you another video. In this video, I'm going to review 3 plugins from the Arturia V Collection 8. Now, Arturia V Collection, I'll be honest with you, for a long time I was really sort of not really paying too much attention to it because it did feature some older synthesizers, some of them more complicated than others, and they had some piano sounds. I was like, well, I got piano sounds. And then fast forward, they recently, when their V Collection 8, which I was finally able to get my hand, oh gosh, let's try this again. What's up, Dilly Gang? What's up, Dilly Gang? Coming to you another video, and in this video, I'm going to review some plugins from the Arturia V Collection 8. Now, Arturia V Collection 8 is Arturia's latest installment of their collection of vintage synthesizers, pianos, sounds, and samplers. Really cool collection. Now, I'll be honest with you, for a long time, I thought they sounded cool, but I wasn't really paying attention. But when they installed or when they brought in some of these latest plugins or keyboards that they brought into the collection, it really sparked my attention and made me want to try out some of their plugins. And in this video, I'm going to review some of them from the suite. I'm not going to review all the new additions, but I'm going to review the Juno 6, the OBXa plugin, and also the Emulator plugins, and just go over some of their features, what I like about them, the pros and cons, and just kind of share with you my views about it and things like that. So the first plugin I'm going to talk about in this video is the 106. The 106, or the Jun 6V, which actually is based off of the Juno 6. And it was interesting because I mistook this as it being representation of the Juno 60, but actually there was a Juno 6 from Roland, and I'm going to show you that on the screen right now. And as you can see, you got the keyboard right there. The interface is very clean, very simple, and I'm just going to play a little bit of a preset that I made called Celebration Bass, and it sounds something like this. Really good sound, and if you got subs, you're probably vibrating. So one thing I like about this is that it's simplicity. When I was playing my friend's Juno keyboard, I really just kind of was drawn to it because of the nostalgia effect of it. And when these kind of keyboards came out, I really didn't know anything about it. But one thing I did like about it was that it's just really simple. And coming from a plug-in world and then kind of migrating to physical synthesizers, because when I was around actual physical synthesizers as a child, I had no idea what was going on. But coming from more of a plug-in world like Massive from Native Instruments and then Serum, you got everything in the box. But the things that these older synthesizers did, they just kind of did it very well. There wasn't a whole lot to it. So you got your arpeggiator right there. You can create chords there. Very simple routing right there. And then you have an advanced tab. Now, let's just stop right here, because if you've messed with any plugins, you know that Tal has a Juno plugin, and even Roland themselves have came out with a Juno 106 plugin, and they all sound great. But what sets this apart to me is the flexibility that it has with it, because if you click on the advanced tab, you actually have a built-in reverb right there that sounds good. And if you want to hear reverb, just mix it in, just bring it in right there, and now you got want some delay, just bring it in right there. Really good stuff. And they actually add a second envelope that's not in the original keyboard, and you can assign that to multiple destinations in a positive or negative way. You got a second LFO, which really makes for some fun sounds. And it's just really simple. If you want to add a little bit of a sub sound to it, just bring up the sub square. The filters right there, and one slider, you add resonance right there. You got a very simple envelope. This is a great keyboard to learn about synthesis with because it's so simple. And sometimes if I want to get to a sound pretty quickly, I can do that. And another thing that sets this plugin apart from like the Roland plugin is the ability to add the chorus without the noise. So if I disable the chorus here, we hear that we got it's kind of like a very pure sound. You don't hear a stereo field effect. But when I add the chorus, now listen closely because there's a button here called chorus noise. Now, and what they're trying to do is emulate the actual keyboard. So when you used to turn on the chorus in the actual keyboard, and actually heard this in real life, you hit the chorus noise. Now we kind of hear that noise that's in the high end, right? And you couldn't have that. Like when Juno released their plugin, you could add the chorus, but you would also have that noise. So to have that off of there is really good. And they have some voice calibration there to kind of make it sound like it's more aged and degraded, because a lot of these keyboards are aged and more degraded, and they're not really perfectly calibrated. So they have some faults. But that kind of adds to the flavor of the stew. Here's another sound I've done on here with an arpeggiator. You know, and there's another patch right here. And if you want to add some reverb to that, just draw it in right there. Really good sound there. And then I also like to do pads. That's one of my favorite things to design. So we got that there. I mean, you can pad all day with this thing and add some more. So you want that kind of like that vintagey pad that kind of just sounds good. Does really good there. I really like the plugin a lot, and I've already said a lot on there. So let's go to the next plugin, which is the OBXa. And let's bring that plugin. Now, that's a patch I did right there. And the OBXa is an 8-voice synthesizer, and just a little bit of a history note. So what happens is back when these synthesizers were first coming out in like the 80s and late 70s, it was a big deal for an analog synthesizer to have more than one voice. Of course, Moog kind of came into the picture very early on, but a lot of keyboards only played one voice at a time. And just to explain what voices are one pitch, you know, that you can play at a time. So when you got companies like Roland and Oberheim coming out with multiple voice keyboards, it was like, oh man, this is amazing. And but the thing was, they were very expensive too. So what you're hearing right now is the 8 voices of the OBXa being played along at the same time with the unison mode turned on. But if I turn that unison off, we get. But we can also add a second oscillator here. And that little pitch slide is being brought in because you have advanced envelopes and advanced modulation right here. Just like on the Juno Jun-6V, you got a reverb, and you got a list of effects right here from delay, chorus, flange, phaser, overdrive, compressor, big crusher, multi-mode. You got delays, chorus. You can chain them together or make them run in parallel. It's basically what you want to do. And they all start dry, and then you can add or wetten them up with the effect as much as you want. But what really makes this plugin set apart is just this simple modulator right there, where you can kind of add extra modules or stuff like that. And you also have a modulation matrix. This looks like something from Ableton, actually, to me. And you can actually modulate one thing into another setting. So I just kind of added a little bit of a pitch slide on the frequency of the pitch of these oscillators. If I want to turn that off, I could just click that little button right there. You know, they have to say that jump. So you got that there. And I actually made a nice kind of preset here. And another thing I want to point out is the librarian of these presets and these plugins. It's very easy to find what you want and make a sound right here. So I was experimenting with a little bit earlier here, and as you can see, we got kind of like a little rhythmic LFO happening right now. This reminds me of Massive, kind of like how Massive had those kind of multi-faceted LFOs there. So what I can do here is I can kind of go, and we can hear that pulsing thing. What you're hearing is the filter being affected by that pattern on the screen. And I always like to design pads. And if I want to create some more intensity, I can macro this fader right here, or macro that knob and make it sound more brighter. And so what you're getting is a combination of the old with the new. And we're making that processor work. So I'm going to bring that filter down. Bring that pole down. Add some noise. So as you can see, that's just one layer. So I mean, you can have 4 of those things going on, controlling different things at the same time on top of the LFO that you have for one parameter right there. So once again, they've taken an older concept and they've added a little bit more oomph to it. They've added kind of like modern twists that you really couldn't achieve back on those older synthesizers without a lot of work going on, or a lot of extra hands on your keyboard. And then you also having a whole lot of outboard gear, because, you know, keyboards like these didn't come with effects now. You know, it's pretty standard for a keyboard to come with effects built in now. But back then, that was it. That was it. And let's go ahead and move on to the another plugin, which is the Emulator. And I'm quite sure you heard this flute sound before. This is called the Shakuhachi. And you can add effects right there. Once again, a little bit of a different layout, but you get 3 effects built in right there. You got some arpeggiator action going on there, but if you want to add some more reverb, just add more on the dry wet section there. Add some delays. And that's one of the favorite sounds that it has on here. Lots of sounds on here. So here's the breakdown with this this device right here. So this is the Emulator II. It took floppy disks. Imagine that. And you know, you had 8 samples that you could load in, and then you can assign these samples to different key groups on here, or whatever you want there. If I were to load up kind of like a sequence, you can see how different sounds can be triggering. Lots of advanced things, and you got to think about it. When this keyboard came out, this came out before sampling really was more of the mainstream. Like, this is sampling at the time was only available to, say, the elite, or those who are affluent enough to afford these type of instruments. And just looking at the front bass, it looks very basic, but there's a lot of advanced things going on. You got your filter area, you got your LFO, you got your master control, you can transpose and tune different things like that. I mean, effects right there, EQ, reverb, delay, 3 effects built in right there, arpeggiator. And I mean, you can go to town. And I mean, you can really dive into these and really edit a lot of these sounds, which is really cool. And everything has sampling built in now, but just taking time to really admire the technology from back then and to understand how all this came together is pretty cool. This is the DNA. This is how a lot of keyboard workstations work now, and this is how a lot of wavetable plugins work now. A lot of times you don't really see under the hood of what's going on in the wavetable sample-based plugins of today, unless you really go dive into the menus like this. So I really like it. I like how the pads sound on here. Let's go ahead and check out some of the pads on there. It just really shows you how powerful this technology was back then. Of course, it's more mainstream now. We kind of take it for granted, but back then, it was just amazing technology. I mean, you could really like score some sci-fi stuff, which I'm not surprised if someone has with this board. But I mean, if you were to ask a 14-year-old version of me, how would I feel if I had one of these? I'd probably be going crazy with it and having all kinds of fun with it. Now, as you can see, this didn't come with a built-in sequencer. The Fairlight CMI, which is also a plugin in this Arturia collection, has a sequencer in it. But again, it comes with some basic sounds that you have heard before. A lot of factory samples, like the factory samples that comes with these type of keyboards are typically included in there, just like on the Juno. Like if I were to go back to the Juno and pull that up, you can see that it has like some factory sounds right up in there. If I go to Explore and just kind of look at some of the factory sounds. If I go to brass, there is that brass right there. Now, this is the factory preset. I recognize this one. Very, very basic. It sounds basic by itself, but you add some reverb and some effects to it, you're going to have a lot of fun with that. And so that's what breaks that down right there. So, with the emulator, it really teaches you how the older keyboards work, which is what I really like. And it's a great way to preserve a lot of this technology. A lot of this technology is very hard to get hold of. A lot of this technology is very hard to purchase unless you have a lot of money, because a lot of times these keyboards are still in existence today. If they're still working and they're tuned right and they're maintained right, they demand a lot of money unless you find a diamond in the rough somewhere. These typical keyboards will cost a lot of money to acquire. And oftentimes, you may not have all the space in the world to be collecting all kinds of keyboards. You may not have the means to do that, but this is a great way to really enjoy what came before, and really helps you get an understanding of what this happens or what these do. So these are really cool right here, and I really enjoy these plugins. So yeah, so that is the Juno 6, that is the Oberheim OB-Xa and the emulator. There's more stuff to this Arturia V collection, but I just wanted to start here and just give you a quick review on those. I think they're really great additions to your collection. They're a really great way to learn synthesis, and I mean, they bring some flavors to it. And if you want like a simple plugin, you don't want a lot of bells and whistles, I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it can go there if you needed to. Very quality experience, and it definitely connects me with the past and enables me to bridge the past and future together. Really fun stuff. So if you like this type of video, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe, support this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, I'm out. Peace.
Continuing on the sound design legacy brought to you by DilioT2K.com, we now introduce to you Dim Chords Volume 2, a soul-filled loop pack containing 30 90s R&B chord progressions in the style of Teddy Riley, Babyface, and many others from the golden age of R&B. You can loop, chop, transpose, and sculpt these loops into your next placed platinum hit for today's demands on music production. Keep it old school or add some fresh paint with the MIDI files also included in this library. Last and not least, all loops are royalty-free with no catches. Dim Chords Volume 2 continues the legacy, bringing the past into the future. Purchase Dim Chords Volume 2 today and be inspired now. Use the discount code to receive your discount off the street price.